I'm Nick Hernandez, and you're listening to the Positivity Matters podcast. On this show, we talk about well being, and we try to do that from every which way. Today, I am happy to have an artist on the show. I have one, Amy Smith. She works with ceramics. She earned her master's in fine arts from the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. And she is the director of Kimmel Harding Nelson Center in Nebraska City. They have shows typically on third Thursdays. So, an activity if you're in the region to something to do. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you for having me.
Uh, Tell us a little bit about your journey in becoming an artist, moving towards being the director of an arts organization.
Well, I grew up in a small town and, was essentially born into this sweet little community, and going to church was part of our lives on the regular. I think that I was introduced to majesty and being grateful and thankful. I'm an observant person, and I felt as though it was a path that I could take that would be purposeful.
You were the girl who could draw,
I
and
was.
your community had this idea that you would be the art teacher for the community.
I'm sure they saw that I could draw, and then they dreamed up going off to school and getting my art degree and coming back and then teaching art to all the children.
There's something beautiful about that, and that my guess is that for most people, feeling that their community saw them in a way that was meaningful and wanted to let them know that a possibility exists. In some ways, it could be very hope giving, and I'm guessing in other ways, it could be very disempowering potentially. It's it sounds like you had other ideas for Amy and art. What happened
Yeah, I
then?
mean, certainly most small towns, the sons take over their father's businesses. Well, my dad had three girls, and so I think that we in that had freedom to sort of do what we wanted because we weren't male born, right? And for others and myself to see that I had a gift, I did feel special. It's different than just taking over your dad's garage, right? Or taking over the family business or whatever. Um, and so certainly there was an aspect of feeling a little bit different. And I enjoyed that. And but I did have my own ideas for what I wanted to do. You and I talked a little bit about running. So if I were to encapsulate myself at 8 years old, I felt like I was a runner and I felt like I was an artist. And those are just parts of who I was, and that would never change, right? It's not something that I decided to do per se. It was who I was. And so that was quite exciting to me. And I have ran, I don't know what the right word is, for years and years and years. My first race was 8 years old, the Carp Festival Fun Run. But yeah, I'm still running today, and then for this idea that I'm an artist, even if I'm not making or producing, or even if I don't have inventory at present, I am an artist. It's how I see the world. It's how I walk through the world. It's like my way of life. So the ideas that I had, I guess, were that I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do. That was pretty radical for where I came from.
The self-generated life that may have not gone over so well. But I think that art and the art world is basically, it's cool the stuff that's made, but it also, I think, for the the rest of the world. It represents the idea that the future can be different.
Yes.
There can be
And
some self creation, self
yeah.
expression.
Well, I was lucky enough to go to college. And once there, I mean, of course, me and everyone that knew me thought that I was going to go and then become, let's say, an illustrator or become, I don't know, a painter, let's say. And I ended up falling in love with ceramics. So took a ceramics course and I just was so enamored with this idea that I could be making art, but it was useful, functional, utilitarian at the same time. Um, and decided to take the next class and then decided to apply to be a major, was accepted, and then, finished that degree. So I came out of Ohio University making pottery, and then had an apprenticeship in Massachusetts to understand the business side of ceramics. And so I went off to Massachusetts and learned from a couple who had a company. It's called Kaleidoscope Pottery. It was a really amazing experience to go so far from home. Being out in Massachusetts, I thought, wow, I'm so much more of a Midwestern girl than I thought I was. Because it was just so different to live in New England. And it was only for a year, but very transformative at that point in my life. And then again, like lucky enough to be teaching at a school. I taught at the Putney School in Vermont, and had just an amazing experience out there. And then I came to graduate school at the University of Nebraska Lincoln and studied. I came to study with Pete Pinnell. Gail Kendall had built the program up, and Eddie Dominguez, to my memory, came at the same time. I think we both came in 98. And then I was the first graduate student that Eddie was an advisor for who graduated. So pretty special. So just such a dream team, to be able to study under in graduate school. And they push you, they question you, they um, you know, push you to be the best version of yourself that you can be when you're studying under them. And I'm sure someone at some point said, so function is not the most important thing to you. And I didn't know what to do with that. So it was interesting to have, I'm sure Pete said it. It's interesting for Pete to say that to me and just kind of knock my feet out from under me. And then I had to figure that out, or I got to figure that out.
I'm guessing there's something about having a record, whether it be students or whether it be clay.
Yeah.
Records are left in many places. The runs that one has done. Uh,
Yes.
you've traced quite a line in multiple domains.
Oh, thanks.
uh, yeah. What? Okay. Running, clay, people. Uh,
Yeah.
Ranked order, difficulty to work with.
Oh, well, I mean, my website is Amy Smith Porcelain, right? So, essentially the first time that I was handed porcelain, and this was in graduate school from Michael Strand, he had some extra and he wasn't going to use it. And he's like, here, why don't you use this? And I was hesitant at first, but once I worked with porcelain, I didn't really want to work with any other clay body. Um, I mean, there's low fire clay body, there's, earthenware, there's terracotta, there's stoneware, there's all these different types of clay bodies. And porcelain is very difficult to work with compared to all the others. So I guess to answer your question, because I'm working with porcelain, I think that that's the most difficult to work with of the options that you gave me. People say it's
uh,
like trying to throw, if you're going to throw on the wheel, people say that it's trying to throw with cream cheese. And so, of course, there are people out there in the world who are going to challenge that, and they actually do try to throw with cream cheese on their wheel. And they say it's not that different from porcelain. I mean, I have not done it myself, but I wouldn't want to get my wheel dirty.
Now, this the person that lent you the porcelain or that
Oh,
gave
he
you the
gave it to me.
porcelain. Yeah, it he has quite an interesting project where he trades mugs that he's made for cups that have stories
Right.
attached to them.
Yes.
That was an experience that I got to be a part of. I believe I have a Michael Strand mug somewhere, and
I
he
believe that
has
you
a
do.
cup and a story of mine somewhere.
Yes.
But,
Yes, he does.
uh,
What was that project called? Do you have that?
yeah, let's see. What is it? The like Liberated Cup Project or
Yes.
something along
Liberated
those
Cup
lines.
Project. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was a
Well,
same year as you, uh, office mate.
no, we were studio mates. And so if it's a 3-year program, he was in his third year and I was in my first. And God, it was so great to share a studio with him and come up with how we were going to interact with each other in this shared studio, so that we could both get our work done and be productive, and essentially build each other up while we were sharing that space. Um, so yeah, it was really a good thing to sort of sit down and talk about how we were going to interact with one another, what our limits were, what our boundaries were, when we sort of would let the other person just blurt something out and tell us what they see, right? Um, in the work. So I remember one time I was creating this bust and I cut the bust in half and then scooped out the middle so that it would be not solid. You need to make things in ceramics that are not solid, so that they can be fired and whatnot, and be light enough to lift. And so he just blurted out, "Are you going to cover that line?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I don't think that you should." I think you should leave it. And so we definitely allowed each other to do that to one another if we felt compelled. And I am so glad that we gave each other that gift, because I know that we both learned from one another by allowing that for each other. But yeah, Michael's an amazing individual and he's such a visionary. And I mean, you couldn't really put two people who were so different from one another. I am just a cross my T's, dot my I's kind of person. I want to finish one thing before I start the other. Um, and Michael's not like that at all. He has so many ideas, and he's the one in the meeting where he's inspiring everyone and coming up with things that no one else would be able to even think of. So that was shocking, I think, for me. I don't know if it was for him, but it was shocking for me to share space with someone like that. And then, similarly, I mean, coming to a school, with, I think we had 9 graduate students, maybe 7 when I first started, and then we ended up with 9. I'd have to go back and think about it. But for people to be in different years and different places in their clay journey, one of the individuals that I was at school with is Matt Kelleher. And I remember I asked him one day when I was walking down the hall, I said, "Hey, did you have a good day?" And he goes, "Yeah, it was a great day." And he said, "I filled my table." So he was making pots and then he filled his workspace table in his studio on his side because he, of course, shared with someone else. And he goes, "How about you?" And I said, "I had a great day too. I emptied my table." So I had like finished everything, right, that had been out, and I could start again, like start fresh the next day. And so both of us had a great day, but it was such a different day. Um, and that just really surprised me too. Um, that we're both, that we're all on this endeavor together and we're pushing ourselves, but yet such a different experience for all of us involved.
So there's something. about materials that they have certain properties, but then there's like things can be done with the materials of art. Uh, I think humans, we may be kind of similar. Um, and one of the ways of describing the material is with the Myers Briggs assessment. And thank you for sharing the ISFJ ness of yourself at some point. And
You're
this
welcome.
is ENFP um, talking, but so uh, what is the material of Amy like from that perspective with the the personality?
Yeah, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit to when I was an undergrad, and I had taken a sculpture course as well. I had taken relief printing. I had taken a couple art classes as a freshman, um, and uh, and so when I got into ceramics, I really liked that there were limits. I liked that there were these parameters. So um, it's almost like you work backwards, right? So you measure the kiln before you make the work so that the work fits in the kiln. That was really attractive to me. And as opposed to sculpture where it just seemed like anything goes. You could use screws, you could use nails, you could use glue, you could do anything you wanted. And for a different personality, that would be their jam. But for me and my personality, I really kind of liked these rules and parameters and limits. Um, And so I think I was attracted to clay, the material, partially due to my personality. Not to say that everyone that's in ceramics is the same personality, not like that at all. But I think for me and where I was at in my life at the time, that was attractive to me. And and then yeah, like I said, just kept taking those classes and ended up majoring and making the work that I did and going on the journey that I did. But to answer your question, um, the material of an ISFJ. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and then there's also this phrase turbulent centennial. I
Yeah,
don't know if that has
yeah,
any resonance for you.
yeah. Well, I mean, I am an introvert, but I'm a social introvert. So I do love people and I interact very well with individuals. But if I have an art opening and I'm there for 2 hours, as soon as the 2 hours is up, my heels are coming off and I'm putting my boots back on and I need a break. I need a rest. I need to recoup and recover. So I love it and I do it, but there's an aspect of my personality that is extremely introverted. Love spending time by myself, alone with myself. I'll take myself out to dinner. And it just cracks me up because I walk into a place and they're like, just one, only one? Yes, I'm with myself. Yes, one. It's not a lesser thing. It's not
You
less.
actually were the a lyricist for that Miley Cyrus song. She performed it
Oh,
well, I
yeah.
think, but yeah, like I can buy myself flowers for anyone that.
Right, yeah, yeah. And then observant, I'm extremely observant, always have been. This past Mother's Day, I called my mom, of course, to wish her happy Mother's Day. And she talked a little bit about when I was first born. And she said, "You just looked all around the room. You just looked at everything," she said. And apparently, when I was born, she looked at me and she thought that I looked uh, amiable. So she named me Amy. Um, and so I certainly know that throughout my entire life, I've been very observant. If I walk into a room, I put myself, kind of over on the side where I want to be and I can see everything. I am not someone that wants to be on stage and have a spotlight on me. No, no thanks. And then you mentioned, we talked a little bit before we started the podcast. You said that I have this judging, the J portion judging, and that doesn't necessarily mean what we think judging means. It's not sort of our initial thought of what judging is. So if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the I'm a fan of StrengthsFinder. Dear listeners, you can find this at www.viacharacter. That's Victor India Alpha character.org. And in that one, judgment, it means open-mindedness. You're able to think about things, uh, work through your thoughts about things. So judgment in that sense. I don't know if that's for sure what the Myers-Briggs version is about, but there is a description here that I want to read also about the turbulent sentinel. It says, a loyal, detail oriented nurturer driven by self improvement, but prone to self doubt, often called turbulent defenders. They are highly attuned to the emotions and needs of others, quietly managing everyday responsibilities to ensure everyone is supported.
Yes.
Does any of that resonate?
Yes, for sure. I
Yeah.
do think though that in crossing 50, that's first of all, it's a privilege to have turned 50. I'm glad I made it. And there's plenty of people who don't. And so I'm looking at growing older as that I get to. And oh gosh, I just lost my train of thought. What was I going to say about getting older? Oh, that I'm not quite as sweet as I used to be. And I think that that's a good thing, that I am putting myself along with everyone else that I'm caring for or taking care of or making sure that, everyone's all right. I'm on the list too. And I don't know that I knew how to do that as a young mom. I don't know that I knew how to do that in my youth. I think I would put myself aside and maybe come to myself last or later or something like that. So, but I think I'm better at this point in my life of taking care of myself first so that I can go do other things for and with other people rather than the other way around.
Thank you for sharing that. Have you heard of a there's a writer by the name of Brene Brown, and I'm thinking like guilt, shame, vulnerability. Um, I can't remember exactly what I read, but I know that she referenced this notion of self compassion. I
Mm-hmm.
went down the rabbit hole there with self compassion, and eventually this researcher that she recommended, Kristen Neff, she spoke about a part of self compassion being to treat ourselves like we would a good friend. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And I think with all the teaching that I've done, because of course I went to graduate school, once you have your MFA, you can teach on the collegiate level. And, having an MFA is a terminal degree, at least in the United States, for studio art. I think if someone is going to be an art historian, I do believe that they go on for a PhD. Then they can teach. But there were so many times that I would have students in my classes and I could spot a perfectionist right away. And I would go over to them and say, hey, you seem like a perfectionist. And they would just look at me like, how did you know? And I just said, well, teach a lot of people. And then I would ask them, hey, like you'll have a better time in my class if you just take like one or two steps back. That's all, one or two back from your perfectionism. Do you think you can do that, like for yourself? And they're like, yeah, I think I could do that. And it was just like such a
Mm.
wonderful request that seemed realistic in their minds. And they did. If they did it, if they backed up a little bit, just a little bit, they had such a better time. And because I think too much of that is harmful, right? Too much of that is detrimental to the person. Um, yeah, it was good to be able to do that. And then the other thing that happened with my students is that they would say something to themselves. Like when I went around one-on-one and I would talk to them about their drawings, or I would talk to them about their pots, or I'd go to each wheel and talk with each student a little bit. Um, they were so mean to themselves. They would say awful things. And if they said that out loud, it was worse in their own head. And so I would directly ask them, would you say that to her? Like, would you say that to the person next to you? No, I would never. I'm like, then why are you saying it to yourself? And then sometimes I would pair them up with a partner, and then I would, I would say like what you're telling yourself in your own head, tell to your partner, and the looks on their faces of I would never be that cruel, you know. Well, God, then why are you doing it to yourself? Almost like what makes you so special that you can treat yourself so awful? What makes you different? Why are you doing this? So was I teaching art? Of course, but I always felt like I was also teaching or just encouraging or just kind of presenting something as an option so that students could relate to themselves and relate to others in a new and different or perhaps kinder way.
So you mentioned sort of it feels like the structure and discipline of ceramics and the measuring the kiln and um but at the same time it also feels like you're somewhat of a sculptor like with a different medium. So I'll just
Right.
leave that there.
Okay, leave that there.
uh
Oh man.
did I know there's certainly people have different tastes when it comes to film. And you shared about the journey of what it's like to be young at heart for 50 years. But
Yeah.
at some point along the way, did you happen to catch maybe Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? I think this is back in the 80s, and then there was this Wayne's World in the 90s.
Did I watch those?
Yeah, I mean it might be too below the level of
I think it was just not the right timing for the what's the word I want? The protective environment that I grew up with. There was a lot that was not allowed in terms
Hmm.
of TV and movies and music and things like that. Um, Protective, I can't think of the right word, but anyway, people I'm sure know what I'm talking about. I was sheltered. I was sheltered. There's a lot that I don't know, and it's sometimes a little embarrassing, but at the same time, it's okay. I know I saw Dumb and Dumber. Is that the kind of
Nice.
humor that you're talking about?
Perfect.
Maybe I did
Yes.
see Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure because don't they just go excellent all the time in the movie?
And there's a one point in it where they wind up saying be excellent to one another, and then the other one I think chimes in, party on. And then in Wayne's World, there's at some point in Wayne's World, there's I think they say something, oh, party on dudes or something like that.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but
No,
then
I think I just was not allowed to see and experience and do so much. Like the first MTV video I ever saw was at a friend's house, and I knew I couldn't tell anyone because then my parents would find out that I watched MTV.
do you remember what it was?
Yeah, Paul Simon. Um, the video is like what, a pink room or something, and Paul Simon comes in and he's acting like the other character, and then the other one, it's like they're pretending that they're each other. God, what's that video? What's that song?
We'll figure it out. Maybe we'll,
We will. We will.
if there's fair use, maybe we'll have to try to embed it in the episode or something. I don't know.
Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase is the other guy in the
Sounds
video. And it's just
fun.
those two in a room with
Yeah,
instruments.
nice. I wish I was in a room with Chevy Chase and instruments.
Call me Al. That's what it was. Call me Al.
There we go.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got it. Yeah. And I remember thinking, what's the big deal? I had heard so much about MTV and how cool it was. And I thought, what is the big deal? Why do people love this so much?
I'll do a little callback to the sort of style of like fast cut imagery, almost the strobe like effect, and give some credit to the art world coming out of Nebraska of all places, and that would be to one Bruce Connor. uh, graduate of the art program at UNL, originally from Kansas. And in his video Breakaway, I believe in 1966,
Wow.
it looks like a contemporary modern MTV video. I think he gets credit for that. And some have said maybe he's one of the most significant artists of the 20th century. His art was uh, had a lot of thought to it as well, and I believe another one called Crossroads takes some of the footage from the Bikini Islands atomic testing and puts it in such a format that you can't help but feel a sense of the sublime in the way that it's awe plus like a little bit of terror at the same time.
Wow.
But we just brought up MTV, and there's this random connection for the aesthetic of it that uh, you know the breadbasket might get a little bit of credit for, and
Yeah.
so to watch MTV, you can really say you're just an appreciator of Nebraska history and Midwest culture.
Right, right. I like it. I like it. A lot of good things that come out of Nebraska. Nebraska's a great place.
So yeah, yeah, there's yep. And
Well,
there's a lot of
what
great
a
things going on in Nebraska still. So
that's for sure. Well, per our time, what is the most important thing for us to talk about?
well, I just wanted to briefly try to bring the contemporary together with some of those high points of the 80s, and I kind of cobbled together a phrase that winds up being something like be excellent to yourselves and one another and party on. So
I
we
love
got
it.
a little bit of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Wayne's World, and Kristen Neff via Brene Brown. So
Yeah. Well, when we reconnected, we were talking about play and how important play was. So I just want to make sure that we highlight PLAY.
there's the capitalized PLAY of Jaak Panksepp, who traced out the biological system in rats. And he, I guess, at some point took the cortexes off of rats and they still played. So play is deep. It's not just something we think about.
Play
Now,
is
these,
deep. I mean,
yeah,
play is how we learn. Play is so important. It's so sad to me that it gets dropped so early. And that's such a correlation with art. You take a 5-year-old and you ask them to draw something, and they're like, I can do that, I can draw that, and they do it confidently. And then the older, a child gets, and then certainly once I receive a student in a beginning drawing class in college, it's, I ask them to do something and they're not confident. They don't think they can do it. They say things like, "Oh, I can't even draw a stick figure." But they chose drawing for a certain reason. I mean, college students primarily need to fulfill some sort of art credit, and then they choose the medium that they want to. So there is a choice in them being there when I teach those courses. I just think it's shocking how they don't think that they can. I mean, the brilliant thing about that is that very often in a drawing class, I would have them do a self portrait in the first week or two, and then I would keep the drawings and I'd actually take them home. And then I would bring them back at the very end once they had, done all of the exercises and the things that I had laid out in the course. And then they would do another self portrait, and then I would hang them up side by side. And just the laughter and the disbelief on those days, they absolutely loved it. They just couldn't believe the progress they had made. Now, that's representational drawing, of course, but that's sort of the most easy, measurable, progress forward. I didn't quite have the same type of exercise when I was teaching a ceramics course, but it always is exciting in ceramics. I mean, ceramics is such a process-driven medium. And so to take them through the steps of ceramics and have them have a piece at the end that they can take home and use is pretty damn exciting. And that also is a utilitarian focus, but at the same time, it is measurable. So,
Form and function together, better together.
yeah. Yeah. Those beginning classes that I taught so many of, I loved those. I loved, especially for non-majors, the beginning courses for non-majors are just so enjoyable. But yeah, like sort of the absence of play and then the absence of like believing in themselves that they can do art. It's just so interesting and you know, I mean, of course, talks about society and what is important to society and a lot of times art is sort of seen as a privilege or something that's not necessary or elitism, like whatever kind of word you want to apply to that. I think the same thing can be thought of for play. Like you don't need play anymore when you're an adult or whatever. But, you know, here you and I were on a podcast talking about how important play is for people and for our spirit. I'm a believer. I'm a believer in art and I'm a believer in play.
Thank you for being a believer. If people would like to learn more about your work, how do they do that? If they're interested in the KHN,
Yeah. So yeah, I'm the executive director of Kimmel Harding Nelson Center for the Arts in Nebraska City. I'm rounding the corner to serving 2 years. It's an amazing program that has been in existence since 2001. We have artists from all over the world who apply, and there are approximately, let's say, 32, 36, 34 um, residents that are awarded a residency per session. And a session is like a half a year. So there's 2 sessions in a year. And so they come and work here. So we have composers, visual artists, interdisciplinary artists, and writers who come. It's a beautiful website, khncenterforthearts.org. It's the website. Instagram is KHN Center. And then you asked about my work. I had a 30-year ceramic career, very grateful for that. My website is amysmithporcelain.com. I have very little inventory right now. I'm looking forward to making again. People can certainly go to my website and look at the website. There's also, if you just Google me, if you just type in Amy Smith and then you put ceramics or pottery or clay after my name, images will come up, links will come up. People want to learn more.